Good afternoon. This is Tanner Wilkinson, voice of the Snow College Badgers. Pleased to be joined by head coach of the football team, Coach Zac Erekson. Coach, 1-0. Got off to a start with a win over the Utah Islanders up in Harriman. You mentioned last week kind of a good opportunity for your guys, right? Kind of ease into things the way the schedule shapes up later on. Your initial thoughts after week one?
Start with a win is a win, and we always like wins. And so we'll take that. I will say we had a great time being able to go up to Harriman and play up in the Salt Lake Valley. Beautiful facility. I thought, the Islanders did a good job of, setting up the event and hosting us. We had a great time. The other side of that coin, comes on Sunday and Monday when we put the film on and we see kind of where we were at. We got a lot of work to do. There's usually a big jump from week 1 to week 2, so we're really hopeful. Guys have been practicing well this week, and so as long as that continues, I think we will make a big jump. When you finally get to go against somebody else and you actually have to play whistle to whistle, it's a little bit different. And so, you can't just go touch a guy and expect the whistle to be blown and the play to be over. And so I think there's a lot of finishing aspect that went into the game. And so now that the guys kind of understand what that looks like and how that feels and the speed at which you've got to play, I'm hoping to see a big improvement going into next week.
Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. Jack, though, gets his first career start. Your overall assessment from him in his first start after winning the quarterback battle?
Yeah, I think Jack played good. I think he played like you would expect any freshman to play. Made some mistakes, had the one interception. But I think all in all, we were pleased with what he did on the field. He understands the offense. He grasps our scheme and what we're trying to do. I think the more that he and I, as play caller and signal caller on the field, the more we get to do it, he'll be able to understand exactly why I'm calling what we're calling. And so, really excited for his progression and to see where he goes. And like I said, I think he played good, and I know that there's more in there for him. He knows that, right? He'd be the first one to tell you. He would be. He came in to meetings on Monday already with a notepad full of things. I had the 2 overthrows on the deep outs. I probably should have started on this side of the field. Obviously, the interception, and those were things he came in with. And so, when you have that type of desire to learn and to get better, I think we're headed in the right direction.
Any other thoughts on how you guys played offensively against the Islanders?
Oh, man, we got off to a slow start, right? And that's really frustrating. I think we kind of found our stride a little bit later. The biggest thing that we took away from that side of the ball on the offense was we've got to do a much better job of finishing, right? We did a good job of knowing what to do. We did a good job of engaging. But now we have to finish. And, putting the ball on the ground a couple of times too, is not something we want to be doing. And so really just being able to finish our blocks, finish our drives, finish our throws, finish our routes. I think that's kind of the overarching thing offensively, was that we've got to finish.
Let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. Only gave up 7 points on kind of a broken play, if you will. But overall, you guys blitzed quite a bit throughout the night, bringing 5, sometimes 6 guys. Is that what we can expect out of Coach Wilson at that defensive coordinator spot?
Yeah, we were kind of feeling our way through that defensively. We need to figure out who we're going to be and the identity that we're going to have on defense. That the touchdown for me was really frustrating because we were playing well enough to keep them out of the end zone. And Martin is there. He just kind of gets caught up in trying to find the ball, and I think that receiver made a really good catch. Should he have been able to get the ball off? Probably not, if we were doing our job. And so I do think that you will see the pressures from our defense. I think that we really like our back end in the secondary, and we believe in those guys. And so when you have that group of guys that you feel can cover, if they only have to cover for 3 or 4 seconds, it makes their job a little bit easier. And then also it makes our job up front easier because now we can bring more guys. And so I think, initially, we're going to try to, really kind of figure out who we are. But I liked the aggressive nature of Coach Wilson in this first game. And, I think it also is week to week and kind of dependent on what your opponent is doing offensively and what they like schematically, and how we choose to stop that. I think this week, we didn't really know what to expect. New coaching staff, no film. So guess what? Let's pin our ears back and go and then see what happens. So we'll see kind of what happens Saturday. As I've met with the defensive staff and we've gone over kind of our game plan, there's maybe a little bit more thoughtfulness that is going into maybe just saying, hey, we're going to send 5 and 6 every time, because I think Highland's going to be a much better football team from top to bottom. Not to take anything away from the Islanders. They had some really good players out there, But I think from top to bottom, Highland's going to be a lot more disciplined. I think they're going to have schematically some better things going on, and so we've got to probably make sure that we are assignment sound in what we're doing defensively.
Well, I can tell you from the broadcasting perspective, we love the blitzing. Made it a lot of fun for us calling that up top. A couple guys I wanted to talk a little bit about on the defensive side of things. Thought a couple guys stood out. Dallin Sweat had a big opportunity. You mentioned last week kind of filling in for an injury. Thought he had a really strong game. Jaden Wright also had a couple of sacks coming off the edge. Junior Kafusi was our Sam Pete Steele player of the game. Thought he just brought a toughness and an edge. What can you say about the way those specific guys played, both your linebackers and then that front group?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head with Dallin. Dallin played a fantastic game. I thought he was the most consistent guy on defense throughout the night from start to finish. Was where he was supposed to be and made the plays he was supposed to make, right? If you're not a connoisseur of football, he may not have jumped off the page to you, but when you watch the tape from a football perspective, like you said and like I would agree, he was probably had one of the better games of anybody on the defensive side. Jaden as well was able to make the plays he needed to make. Still some things that he would tell you he would like to clean up. He plays with such enthusiasm and such fire. He's one of those guys that just loves being out there, loves the physicality of the game. And so with him, you kind of walk that fine line of not letting your emotions get the best of you in that aspect to make sure you can still do your job and be assignment sound. Looking forward to him making a big jump as well. I mean, played great, but looking forward to him making a big jump. Understanding it, and one of the things I told the whole team is you've got to learn how to feel and interpret your emotions on the football field, right? Because those are emotions and powerful emotions that you don't feel all the time. And so when we learn how to deal with those in the confines of playing a football game, now we can really, start to excel. And, with Junior, I mean, Junior should be one of the best football players on the field every time we take the field. It is what it is, right? That's the reality. And if he continues to do what he's supposed to, he'll be one of the highest recruited guys out of here. And so, again, he had his moments. I think, as a defensive staff and then as a head coach and even down to Junior himself, there's some stuff that he's got to fix. Again, I think emotion played a lot into this game, right? We had a lot of guys that are from the Salt Lake Valley playing against kids they went to high school with, or in one case we had brothers, right? James Aliso was going against Mac Aliso, and I mean, they both were on the offensive line, so they weren't actually going against each other. And so I think those emotions for everybody, I think it was just something that they haven't really experienced. And so, and I think Junior kind of now stepping back, looking at that, could say, man, maybe I let some of my emotions just get me out of position here, out of position there, trying to make it more of a one-on-one battle than a team concept battle. But yeah, Junior is going to get better every week. And by the time this season is all said and done, I'll be very surprised, like I said, if he's not one of the highest rated recruited kids in the entire country.
Let's talk special teams. Very exciting punt return from Jaden Robertson. First punt return for a touchdown in over a year for you guys. You kind of hinted at his explosiveness last week. Really fun to see that. You guys also handled field goals, PATs just fine. Any other thoughts on special teams?
Yeah, I thought our special teams played great. We covered well on kickoff. Obviously, we had a bunch of kickoffs, and so it was always good to see us I think their average starting field position was less than the 35-yard line each time, which that's our goal, right? And to be able to do that, to cover that is always a good thing, right? 100% on PATs also was a big deal. I thought Amaj kicked the ball well. And then, you bring up Jaden, and that's why Jaden is back there, right? Jaden is a very explosive football player. He should have had a pick six on our sideline as well, just dropped the ball. Those are things that we will expect to see out of him all season long. He could find himself as an All-American returner. If I like our scheme, I like what Coach O'Neill is doing with our special teams, and when you have somebody as dynamic and special back there as Jaden, I think a lot of good things will happen for us.
Let's focus our attention now to Highland out there in Kansas as you make the trip out there. You mentioned they're going to be a little bit better top to bottom than what you saw on Saturday. The schedule kind of favors you guys that way, where you kind of build upon it, right? Week by week, you get a little bit different of a challenge, kind of working your way up to some of these top tier games. What can we expect out of Highland?
Yeah, we did a lot of research going into this week because it's a whole new coaching staff, and so their defensive coordinator has spent the last 4 years at Iowa Central, was on the staff that beat us a couple years ago in the bowl game, was on the staff last year at Central that gave Iowa Western all they could handle. So we're kind of going back and looking to see what they did in those defensive schemes. Their offensive coordinator was at NAU last year as an offensive GA, and then was at Utah Tech actually the year prior to that. And so while don't have any film on them yet, we think we have a pretty good idea. They did get a lot of good transfers in going into this year, late spring, early summer additions. And so as we've kind of prepared for these guys, their head coach, Tom Minnick, is one of the best to ever do it, right? He's won national championships. He's won everywhere he's been, whether that be Arizona Western or Garden City. And so we know that they're going to be a tough physical football team. We know that they're going to play for 60 minutes. What we don't know is who is it that's going to actually be out there. And I don't know that we could definitively say what we're going to see offensive and defensively, but I think we have a pretty good idea. I think our coaches did a really good job over the weekend of doing some serious recon on the coaching staff for us to try to find potentially who we're playing. Maybe puts us at a slight disadvantage that they get to see us in a game before we get to see them. But we're just looking forward to another challenge, right? Being able to go out there. They have a beautiful facility, actually. We're about an hour outside of Kansas City, and so we're excited to get out there. And anytime we get to play anybody in the Jayhawk, we love that opportunity to be able to go out there and play in, what I would argue is some of the best junior college football in the country. And so as we kind of wrap up our preparation for the week, we better be prepared to play, a physical, team that is going to play for 60 minutes and that will be top to bottom better than what we saw this last week.
Biggest thing in terms of health, how do you guys feel like you escaped from the earlier game heading into week 2?
Yeah. Coming off the field Saturday, I don't think we didn't have really any injuries. When we got back to work on Monday, we had some guys that kind of had some, they got a little beat up. Nothing too dramatic, and they'll kind of be game time decisions. Not because I don't think they could go, but we kind of need to make that decision with our overall season in mind. And so if I was to bet right now, I would think we'd be pretty close to full strength come Saturday. I don't think there was anything that would need more than a couple of days to kind of get rested up and healed. And it's a battle of attrition in football season, right? It's who can stay healthy the longest, and so far I think knock on wood, we're doing okay.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time. Good luck heading out to Kansas this week and taking on Highland.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.